Have you ever had one of those moments, though, where something embarrassing, something awful happens, and you just wish the ground would open up and take you away? Those nodding are the embarrassing ones in our congregation. That's fine. We'll look around. A few weeks ago, I had what is, I believe, to be the most embarrassing moment of my life, my ministry, and I hope it will remain the highlight of my greatest embarrassment. I don't ever want to top it. It was utterly terrible. So, I'm a chaplain of a school locally nearby, and one of the things we do there is after school one day we go and we hand out chocolates and little knick-knack things. We do it at Christmas and we do it at Easter. We did it very recently. And we staple a kind of card, either a Christmas card or a staple something that says, here's what we're doing over Easter, why not come give us a look? And as chaplain, you know, I get to be my more sarcastic self with the kids. I get to, the age I am, I get to take the mick out of them, I get to have a bit of banter with them. Love it, love that kind of thing. And so, some kids are coming up to me, they're showing me their gymnastics, they're showing me some dances. A couple of young girls were teaching me all about sass. Apparently you have to go TT-ya. Did you know this? That is sass. That's what I was told. They sounded American every time they started sounding sassy though, I'm not sure if that's part of it. But so I'm taking the mick out of kids essentially, they come up, we have a wonderful little relationship thing going here. One young man comes up and he's got his arm up his sleeve. Any child from the 90s, which I can see is most of us, will know that idea of when you've got a jumper at school. You must have noticed as a head teacher, kids putting their arms up their sleeves. Happened to me once in secondary school actually. I put my arms up my sleeves and my friend tied my sleeves to the table. My teacher was livid when she came over and saw I hadn't done any of my work. But it happens. This young man has got his arm up his sleeve. He's messing about. Love it. He comes up to me. I say, come on, you need some chocolate. You've only got one arm. Not very handy, is it? And he takes the chocolate and he walks off. And his mum walks past me. Doesn't say anything, but walks past. And as they're walking away, I'm watching. He's not taking his arm out his sleeve. Oh. So isn't that odd? Surely it'd be easier to carry his bag and his chocolate and he took his arm out his sleeve. And I stopped handing out to the other kids. It's a long way to get out from the school. And I'm watching as he walks. I thought, this kid's really committed to this Joe. Until eventually he's out of view. Turns out that child only has one arm. Oh. I, the chaplain of the school, the minister, the apparent adult, made a joke about a child only having one arm and told him it wasn't very handy. As far as moments go, wasn't my shining moment. Luckily the kid didn't even hear me. He didn't even clock what I was saying. He was too busy looking at the chocolate. The mum heard it, but she knew there was no ill will. She saw me interacting with the kids. All was fine, luckily. But when I say I went home and repented like it was the Middle Ages, oh my days, I've never felt so guilty in my life. I felt utterly awful. Today I will go home, my wife will go, how did it go today? I shall say, great, no children were taking the mick off for only having one arm. It's a successful day. Thing is, if you hear that kind of story, you know, if I made it up, maybe you'd think, well, that's insane. Who comes up with something like that? That's insane. And this thing, it's either insane or it's true. It's either insane or it's true. Have you ever heard the expression, truth is stranger than fiction? You heard that expression before?
Yeah.
Does anyone know who said it? Nah.
Somerset Fall.
Somerset Fall? Vol. No, I'm afraid it was Mark Twain. Though I like the guessing. No one else had a guess. Mark Twain. The actual quote is he says, truth is stranger than fiction. Fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't. And it's quite true. If you're going to make something up, you have to try and make it credible. You have to try and make it linked to reality. But reality itself doesn't need that. Because it's just true. You can say that sounds impossible to believe, but it is just true. It doesn't need to be rooted in reality. A minister taking the mick out of a child for only having one arm. It's outlandish, but it just happens to be true. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And that's where we get to the point of the story of Jesus. It is either insane or it's true. It's either complete madness that some wild individual has concocted, or it's true. It can't just be boring. It's certainly not boring what happens. It can't be just a wild idea. It's either insane or it's true. And this is the thing. It's not fiction. It's reality. Jesus lived. The Gospels record it. Paul wrote about Jesus 20 to 30 years after he died. He records it for us. We can even look outside of the Bible to find people who tell us about Jesus having existed. Tacitus, a Roman historian. As we see in our story, Romans weren't exactly keen on Jesus. And yet Tacitus, a Roman historian, mentions him frequently in the history books. Josephus, a Jewish historian. Once again, from our reading, we can see that Jewish people weren't exactly keen on presenting Jesus as the Son of God. And yet a Jewish historian from that time period writes about the existence of Jesus. Even critics like Lucian of Samosata, a satirist from his time, takes the mick out of Christians for worshipping a crucified Palestinian. You don't take the mick out of something that's not true. You don't mock people for something that didn't actually happen. It's recorded. Jesus died. Not only did he die, he was crucified. The satirist I mentioned, he shows that. But we can prove almost that he died on the cross. That it wasn't just that he was there and then he carried on afterwards. That we have no recorded evidence of anyone ever walking away from a crucifixion. The Romans had a 100% success rate. There is no recorded evidence that anyone ever survived a crucifixion. In looking this up, I actually found in a 1986 article in the Journal of American Medical Association a quote. They investigated from a medical perspective what happened to Jesus on the cross. And this was a quote from it. Jesus was clearly dead before the wound to his side was inflicted. To claim otherwise is inconsistent with modern medical knowledge. That's not a Christian publication. That is a secular, respected journal. And they mention that medical evidence suggests Jesus died on the cross. How they describe water coming out, how they describe his death by asphyxiation. It's accurate. It aligns with our knowledge medically. So if you look up atheist historians, if you look at atheist scholars, atheist theologians, they all converge on the fact that yes, Jesus existed. Yes, he was crucified. Yes, he died. These aren't debated points. They're widely accepted to be true, even by people who don't believe in God. You can't escape those bits. But then what? What do we do with a story after that? Well, that's when it gets personal as a story. Because when we read that story, we have to ask, okay, well, in all that we've just heard, in all those accounts, who am I in that story? Who am I? I'm certainly not Jesus in that story. I wish I was, but I'm the minister who takes the mick out of disabled children. I am not Jesus. So who am I in that story? Well, I'm Pilate. I'm the one who washes his hands of things when I should instead be getting involved. I'm the one who washes my hands of injustice because I'd rather sit back and do nothing. I'm Peter. I'm the one who far too often denies Christ and doesn't live up to what I've been called to do. That's me in the story. I'm Barabbas in the story. I'm someone who's made mistakes, who's done things wrong, and yet instead of getting the punishment for it, Jesus goes off to take that punishment for me. I'm the crowd in that story. I'm the one shouting for my own desires, my own will, instead of thinking about what God's will is. That's me in the story. And maybe you see some of that in your own life as well. Maybe you think of yourself and go, yeah, I can see myself as the crowd. I can see myself as Pilate. I can see myself as Barabbas. Because this is the thing, this isn't just a story. Good Friday isn't just a nice tradition. It's not just fiction. It's not just insane. It's something we come to read. It's meant to get under our skin. And maybe you're thinking, well, okay, maybe you convinced me. Maybe there's enough evidence to suggest that Jesus lived and Jesus died. But there's actually nothing remarkable about that. People live all the time. People die all the time. There is nothing remarkable about that. And that's true. People do live and die. But it's what comes next. It's the fact that after Good Friday, we get ready for Easter Sunday. After Good Friday, we look to a day of hope. And we hold on to the fact that death didn't get the final answer. The betrayal, torture, abandonment, humiliation, crucifixion, even the grave was overcome by Jesus. And once again, we say, well, what evidence do you have of that? How could we possibly know that Jesus rose again? And I'm glad you asked. The earliest Christian creed we have evidence of, we can date to within 3 to 5 years of the death of Jesus. The earliest Christian creed. And it mentions that Jesus appeared to Peter, then the 12, and then to more than 500 people. The writers are pretty much saying, look, here's a name of all the people who saw Jesus alive after he died. Go talk to them. 3 to 5 years after he died, they're still alive. They're still around. That creed is there to say, go talk to these people. They have seen him. It's not just insane, it's true. Many of those named in that creed went on to die, refusing to recant the fact that they had seen Jesus. They didn't keep to this because of status. They didn't keep to it for power. These people that were named, we have historical evidence to show that they were tortured, they were beaten, they were beheaded, they were imprisoned, they were crucified upside down. All of that. And we have no evidence of just one of them recanting the fact that they'd seen Jesus risen. We don't have evidence of even one of them saying, okay, I made it up. Okay, you got me. I didn't really see Jesus. All we have is the evidence that they went to their deaths, their brutal deaths, their imprisonments, their torture, refusing to recant the fact that they had seen Jesus. It's because they weren't defending an idea. They weren't defending the start of a new cool group. They were defending truth. They were telling people what they'd seen in their own eyes. We meet today to mourn what happened on the cross. We meet today to mourn the fact that this had to happen. But we also meet with hope. Because the cross wasn't the end. It wasn't the final bit. It was a turning point. And this is the thing, this is the reality of the story. Yes, it is an unbelievable story. When people turn to say, oh, it's unbelievable, you're absolutely right. When people say that's far too wild to believe, you're absolutely right. When people say that's too much, it's almost too good to be true, you're absolutely right. But the more you look at it, historically, spiritually, personally, the more you start to realize it's not insane, it's true. It happened. We meet at this time because we meet to recognize the fact that 2,000 years ago something happened. Something that has split our history in two. We have literally counted the years since Jesus. Nobody else in history has ever had that ability. We meet and gather because everything we do has changed. We brandish the cross, a symbol that was designed to distill fear in people. We meet and say, well, actually, this thing that you use for fear has been turned into hope. This thing that's meant to create fear for us, this thing that's meant to hold us down, how we view ourselves, how we see our mistakes, how we view ourselves in the world, doesn't matter. Jesus has overcome it. We mourn that that had to happen the way it did, but we get ready to celebrate the fact that it did happen. It's not just insane, it's true. And truth is far stranger than fiction.